Lift up your heads and see, your redemption is near at hand. Crises, wars, natural disasters, pandemics, these are not new. They were present in the Old Testament over and over again. And in many opportunities, many situations, they were the opportunities for prophets to preach, to bring about a right relationship with God and a right relationship with each other. To overcome medical disasters, it requires us to be cautious, but it also requires us to be observant. Many of the Jewish laws developed, especially the Jewish laws around cleanliness, developed because of disasters and pandemics like we're experiencing at the moment. They knew that if they didn't wash their hands, if they didn't wash their feet at different times and other things, that they were going to pass on disease. And disease would bring sickness, disease brings pandemics, and pandemics brings great deaths. They also knew that during times of war, if people didn't reconcile themselves with each other, then more war would occur. We have this psalm today, lift up your heads and see, your redemption is near at hand. This psalm is an indication of times when people had lost hope. They had lived in fear and they walked around with their heads down. They felt bad about themselves. They felt bad about their community. And time again, prophets came to call the people back to a right relationship with God. And John the Baptist, who we have talked about here in our gospel and prophesied about with the prophet Malachi in the first reading, comes to call the community back to prepare the way for the Saviour who changes everything. We shouldn't walk around with our heads to the ground. We shouldn't walk around in fear. But we should lift our heads high because we know that our redemption has come. Jesus Christ has come to save us. And Christ comes again at Christmas this year to save us. The prophet Malachi gives us an indication of what we're called to do when we're preparing for salvation. He says this, he shall turn the hearts of fathers towards their children and the hearts of children towards their fathers. Family reconciliation, community reconciliation must be a heart of what happens right now. If we haven't done this so far throughout this year, if we haven't considered our priorities again, now is the time to do that. To be able to lift our heads high, we need to know that we are right with God. We are right with each other, despite everything that's going on. So in this final day in a little bit, just before we celebrate Christmas, reach out in reconciliation to those we need to be reconciled with. It might be a child, it might be our grandchildren, it may be our next door neighbour, it may be God. Let us lift our heads high because we know that our Saviour is coming. That this time, at this Christmas, is an opportunity for salvation again, for a new start. Let's be people of reconciliation in these last final days before Christmas to bring about family reconciliation, community reconciliation during this time of this pandemic. Lift up your heads and see, your redemption is near at hand.